Yeah, so we can start right now. But good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, all the younger faces are gone, huh?
Yes, now the older folks.
Same teacher.
Yeah, teacher is young.
All right, let's start with the mantras. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhuva Swaha, Tatsavitra Vareneyam, Vargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, मृत्युर्मा अमृतं गम्या ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम. So Vivek Chudamani and verse number 113, 114, 115, 116. These are the verses where Adi Shankaracharya ji is giving us the explanation of Tamo Guna, the Tamsikta. So we did 113 last week. He says the veiling power. In Sanskrit, it's called avriti or avarna. Veiling power is the power of tamas. So Tamsikta is darkness which does not let us know the reality, which makes things appear to be other than what they actually are. Okay, so when there's a darkness, we don't see exactly what is out there. It causes a person's repeated transmigration and initiates the action of the projecting power Vikshepa. And Vikshep is the power of a Rajogun, which we learned earlier. Okay, so because when it's dark out there, the right thing also you will think it's wrong, and that is Vikshep, and you start to get agitated. Okay, so this is where we ended our class last week. So now let's do 114. And these verses are quite long, and I'll definitely go slowly because most of you like to know the Sanskrit terms also. And which is good thing because the language in which the text is written, if we know that language, we can really understand the deeper implication of what the author is trying to tell us. Okay, so pragyavan api panditah api chaturah api atyant suksham atmadrig व्यालीढ़ः तमसः न वेति बहुधा संबोधिता अपि सफुटम भ्रांत्यः आरोपितम एव साधु कल्यति अलंबते तद गुणान हंत असौ प्रबलः दुरंत तमसः शक्ति महति आवृति. Pragyavan, the very first word. Pragyavan means wise. Api means even. Panditaha, Pandit, the learned. Api means even again. Chaturaha, proficient, chatur. Atyant suksham atmadrig, adept in the vision or understanding of the supremely subtle Atma. Because Atma is so subtle to understand that is Atyant Suksham. Atyant means extreme, Suksham is subtle, Atmadrig. Okay. Vya Lidaha, overpowered. Tamsaha by Tamsikta. Na Veti, Veti means comprehend. So na veti means does not comprehend. Bahuda in various ways. Sambodhita taught. Api means even though. Sufutam clearly. We are on, I don't know the page number, Punam, it's verse number 114, if that helps. Bhrantya, by delusion. Aropitam, superimposed. Sadhu, that means the real over here. Sadhu means the real. Normally it means a saint. Sadhu. Kalyati considers. Alambate, get attached. Tad gunan, to its effects. Hant, that means alas. Asau, this. Prabal, powerful. Durant tamsaha, of dire tamsikta. Shakti, the power. Mahati, avriti, great wailing. Avriti, wailing. So Shankaracharya ji is saying even the wise and the learned and those who are proficient in the vision of the supremely subtle meaning of the scriptures are overpowered by tamas and cannot comprehend truth. Even though it's clearly explained in various ways, they consider as real what is simply superimposed by delusion and attach themselves to its effects. And effects are what? The gunas. Get attached to that. Then he says, alas, how powerful is the wailing power of the dire tamas. So, in other words, it's so powerful. Even a person who is very clever, exceedingly capable of seeing the subtle meaning of the things, is genius in intelligence, can be overpowered by the influence of tamsikta. Is incapable of understanding reality, though it is clearly explained in different ways. Scriptures have given many, many examples. A highly intelligent person, logical person, not only does he not understand truth, but he also insists that what he has been falsely projected by him alone is real. Sometimes people use the scriptures just to justify their own opinions. Because intellect cannot comprehend the truth. Because intellect is a part of the Maya. The thickness of the tamas has come to cover the Atma, the truth. So this endless tamas is very powerful. That's what he's saying. So don't take it lightly. The bigger the problem, the stronger the enemy, the more vigilant we need to be. Because this is the aspect of the Maya. The tamasic aspect of Maya has such a mighty power. That's what he's telling us. That even a brilliant intellect, when under the influence of tamas, cannot understand the reality. even though it has been pointed out 1,000 different ways. Okay. So let's look at it. What else he says? Because these are all verses about the tamsikta. Abhavna, va viprit bhavna, asambhavna, विप्रतिपति अस्याः संसर्ग युक्तम न विमुचन्ति ध्रुवम विक्षेप शक्ति क्षप्यति अजसरम. Abhavna, absence of correct judgment. Abhavna. Va means or, viparit bhavana, contrary judgment. Viparit. Asambhavana, lack of definite belief. Vipratipati, that means a doubt. So this tamsikta is connected with these four. Abhavana, viparit bhavana, asambhavana, and vipratipati. These are the four we got to remember. Asya means of this, samsarg yuktam, one connected with this. Na vimuchanti, never leaves. Dhruvam, certainly. Vikshep shakti, the projecting power. Kshapyati, gives trouble. Ajsram, endless. So absence of correct judgment or contrary judgment, lack of definitely belief and doubt, certainly these never leave one who has any connection with this veiling power. Okay, and what is the veiling power? Tamsikta. So if we have a doubt and it does not get removed, we are under the sway of tamsikta. Also, the projecting power gives endless trouble. Endless. Okay, agitation in the mind, fear, doubt. This is all of them are effects of this tamsikta. Okay, so just remember these four. Abhavana, absence of right judgment. Viprit bhavana, contrary judgment. Asambhavana, that is it's like a want of a definite belief in the existence of a thing. Something is there, but you just project your own idea. You're not really seeing the truth. Asambhavana and doubt. So as long as there is a tamas, these are present. They are all effects of the influence of tamas in a person's personality. Because intellect is veiled, clear light is not there. And then rajas will try to play its pranks on us. The mind starts projecting ceaselessly. And what happens, he says, individual suffers. Otherwise, there's no suffering in us. There's no suffering in the Atma. Because Atma, the soul, who we are in essence, in truth, is nothing but joy, nothing but bliss. We suffer because of tamsikta and rajsikta. So whenever we are suffering, we got to look within. Why am I suffering? Why am I doubtful? Bring more light. See, just like if there's a rope outside, you bring the light. Somebody puts a flashlight on it and says it's just a rope. Why are you suffering? Why are you afraid? Light. And that's why we go to the Guru, so that we have some light. Okay, you can see things better, more clearly. Okay, so let's look at next one also. This is again number 16. That's also about tamsikta. अज्ञानम आलस्य जड़त्व निद्रा प्रमाद मूढ़त्व मुखः तमोगुणः एतै प्रयुक्तः न हि वेति किंचित निद्रा लुवत् सतंभवत् एव तिष्ठति. So now we see the effects of tamsikta in our body. Ajnanam, ignorance. Alasya, laziness. Jadatva, dullness. Nidra, sleep. Pramad, carelessness. Mudatva mukha, stupidity. Tamo Guna, the attributes of tamas. Etei, with these, paryuktaha, one is tied up. Nahi, never. Veti means comprehends. Kinchit, anything. Nidra, nidraluvat, like one asleep. Satambhavat, like a stump of wood. See, vat means like. So like a, and satambha is like a pillar. So like a stump of wood. Ev means verily. Tishtati means remains. Ignorance, laziness, dullness, sleep. This sleep could be excessive sleep also. Sleep could be sleeping towards the reality of life. Negligence, stupidity, etc. are the attributes of tamas. One tied up with these cannot comprehend reality, but remains like one asleep, or like a stump of wood, or a block of stone. So we can use these attributes of tamsikta when we see in us, do the opposite of it. Don't be lazy. Don't stay stupid. Don't stay ignorant. Try to gain knowledge. Okay? Stay alert. Then tamsikta will run away. But we have to do it. We have to work on it. So ignorance, inability to act rightly, incapacity to comprehend properly, excessive sleep, or doing things just for the sake of doing it. That's called a colossal stupidity. So these are attributes which are the effects of the tamoguna. If a person keep on repeating the same mistakes again and again without looking through the reasoning of it, we'll call that person stupid. So he says that's a tamsikta. So when a person is under the influence of tamoguna, the above qualities are seen in him. And we don't have to judge others. All this detail is given so that we can see what's happening inside us. Okay? We don't need to call others like you are tamsik. No. We don't want to be tamsik. These are the defects in the functioning of the personality layers in us. They are almost like a parasitic growths on the intellect. And the intellect becomes dull and inert. And a person lives like a dead pillar. We don't want to live like that. Okay, we are the students of spirituality. We got to be alert. So by knowing all this, he's not saying that we are that. He says by knowing the attributes of the tamsikta, make sure that you don't come under the sway of tamsikta. Now in next 3 verses, he's defining sattvikta for us. Okay. So 117, 118 and 119, Satvikta. Sattvam vishuddham jalvat tathapi tabhyam militvaha sarnaye kalpate yatra atam bimbah pratibimbit san prakashyati arkaha iv akhilam jadam. Sattvam, the Satvikta. Vishuddham, pure. Jalvat, like water. Tathapi, yet. Tabhyam, with those two. Militvaha, in combination. Saranaye, for transmigration. And transmigration is what? Coming and going in this manifested world. Kalpate provides yatra, means there. Atam bimba, the light of the self. Bimb is like a reflection, the light. Pratibimbit, getting reflected. Prakashyati, reveals. Arkaha iv, ark means sun. So like the sun. Akhilam, entire. Jadam, inert. So he says pure sattva is like clear water. Yet in combination with the rajas and tamas, see tabhyam with these two. These two means satvikta, rajsikta and tamsikta. Those are the two. Okay. So pure sattva is like clear water. Yet in combination with the rajas and tamas, it provides for transmigration. But when the light of the self gets reflected in sattva alone, then like the sun, it reveals the entire world of matter. So in Satvikta, there's a clarity, there's a purity. So it is a ever pure like water. See, just like water is pure, but when it gets mixed up with some other compound, some other thing, the purity goes away, but water still is pure in that. So like a dirty water because dirt is in there, muddy water because mud is in there. But water itself is ever pure. So when we say it's a stinky water, so that means there is something which stinks is in there. So, but if that stink or the dirt are removed, the water again becomes pure. So that same way, sattva is always present, even in a tamasic person. Sattva is always there. Nobody is completely tamasic. So that's why that satvikta that erupts in us, because sometimes we wonder a person who is extremely tamasic, what is the future for that person? Satvikta is still there and Satvikta will erupt sooner or later. And the person will start moving towards the right direction. Because Atma, the soul, the essence, the self is extremely pure. Okay? So sattva is always present even in a tamasic person. When pure sattva in an individual is in conjunction with the rajas and tamas, it becomes the cause for the transmigration. If it was only sattva, no rajas and tamas, there's no transmigration because it's the pure sattva. He has eliminated the rajas and tamas. So that's the reason he gave us in detail the rajas and the tamas. Try to get rid of that. Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, exactly same thing he told us. But Shankaracharya ji, it was written later on. So he even elaborated further. Somehow he knew that we need more explanation. Okay, so we definitely need to eliminate rajas and tamas. So when there's a pure sattva, the intellect works steadily. There's no wailing and there's no agitation. There's no avarn and there's no vikshepa. The mind becomes steady in utter meditation. I'm sure some days when you meditate, you can really see deep down. No agitation. You have controlled the Rajsikta. So what happens is that mind has become face to face with the divinity under Sattvikta. See, that's why the gurus, the rishis, they say, eat Sattvic food, keep the environment Sattvic, relationships Sattvic, more and more Sattvic environment, more and more you will be able to see clearly. Because whenever there's a Rajsik or Tamsik in your personality layers, you won't be able to see it properly. Because that's what we are learning in the details of this scripture. That veiling, the Avarna Shakti and the Vikshep Shakti. We got to have a control over that. Okay? So just like a sun illumines outside, the same way our inside is illumined also. And what are the ways to do it? Upasana, jap, meditation. These are the spiritual disciplines to bring more and more sattvikta in us. So they purify our personality. That's why the teachers, they say that live a life with these disciplines. So with these kind of spiritual practices, mind becomes calm and the clarity of the light of consciousness reflecting in the intellect becomes more and more. Okay, and with the sattvic, more sattvic attributes in us, what happens? There's a burning aspiration for liberation, or if not liberation, just to, hey, I want to see God. They say God is everywhere. How come I don't see God? Burning aspiration. It becomes greater and greater. And then you cultivate more and more noble virtues, and they will be shining in your personality. And then you will see that in future verses, he'll tell us that result of this upasana, jap, and meditation, a person's capacity to apprehend things increases. And there is an extra brilliant capacity in that personality, which is called intuition in English. In Sanskrit, it's called Gyan Chakshu. Gyan Chakshu. Chakshu means the eyes. Gyan means the intellect. Intellect, which is higher intellect, which is intuition. So power of divine vision. Or it's also called revelation or trance experience. These are just names, but basically it really means the sattvikta has increased to that level where you can really see clearly. The whole process of this discipline, it becomes like an ascending spiral. Instead of just staying down here, it just starts going up. It gathers momentum and carries itself. That's what happens with the more and more sattvikta in us. See, the consciousness, which is called the Atma, is the same in everybody. All beings, we talk about that. But the intelligence of individuals differ on account of the proportion of Rajas and Tamas. Okay, so with one person, the difference between the other person is not the Atma. It's only the Rajas and the Tamas functioning in the personality. And in ourselves also we see that there are times when we feel very clear, calm, pure. Just a little agitation from outside, we just get disturbed. But a person who knows that, hey, this is the reality, will not get agitated in the same circumstance. But there are some people who will get agitated very easily because the proportion of that rajas and tamas is different. We have seen people like a road rage. What happened? They just become so raged, even if somebody crosses them over. For all the problems we see in the society. So, but we can work only on ourselves. So this is what this great teacher is telling us. So now next verse also about Sattva Guna. मिश्रस्य सत्वस्य भवन्ति धर्मः तु अमानिता आद्या नियमः यम आद्या श्रद्धा च भक्ति च मुमुक्षतः च दैवी च संपत्तिः असत् निवृत्ति. मिश्रस्य सत्वस्य. See, mishra means mixed. So mixed sattva. Bhavanti means are. Dharmaha, characteristics. Tu means verily. Amanit adyaha, absence of pride, etc. See, man means pride. Aman means absence of pride. Niyama and yam adya. So yam and the niyams, those are, if you know the Ashtanga Yoga, yam and the niyams are the first two steps on the ladder of yoga. Yam. And we have learned that in our Yoga Sutras, yam, there are 5 yams. Ahimsa, Satya, Ste, Brahmacharya, Apritya. And niyam is Shauch, Santosh, Tap, Swadhyay, Ishwar Pranidhan. So this is what he is mentioning over here. Yam and the niyam adi. Shraddha, faith. Cha means and, bhakti, devotion. Mumukshutaha, yearning for liberation. Cha means and, Devi cha sampati, the divine tendencies. Asat nivriti, turning away from unreal. Asat nivriti. Nivriti means just let it go. So mishrasya sattvasya. So the characteristics of mixed sattva are utter absence of pride, etc. So that means in a personality there is a higher and higher sattvikta. So pride will go away. Absence of pride, etc. Yam and niyam, etc. And also faith, devotion, yearning for liberation, the divine tendencies, and a natural turning away from everything unreal. Everything unreal. Anything other than God and Atma is unreal. Natural tendency to just turning away from it. And this is the effect of the sattvikta in us. So because of the predominance of sattva, the individual's yearning for liberation will be great. Yearning for liberation means, hey, I want to pass this time. I've been coming and going. I have played this game so many times, countless times. And this time I want to pass. I don't want to fail again. So when this anxiety for liberating one's personality increases, sure, pride, etc. Pride belongs to what? Rajsikta. Rajsik person is very proud. They will disappear from the seeker's heart. Because you start seeing the sameness. Because you know that any accomplishment at the physical level, at the even in the intellectual level, these are all part of the personality layers. No pride. Sure, learning is good, but at the same time, you understand that I am the Atma. I'm learning because I want to know me, myself. Then pride goes away. So the qualities of a sattvic personality, it has been explained in the Gita. In, I'm sure you remember, chapter 16. And let me remind you the name of the title of the chapter, Dev Asur Sampad Vibhag Yoga. Revisit that chapter today. Right in the beginning of that chapter, verse number 1, 2, and 3 of that chapter, Lord Krishna has given these qualities. He said fearlessness, purity of heart, steadfastness, the yoga of knowledge, charity giving, control of the senses, sacrifice, study of the scriptures, austerity, straightforwardness, harmlessness. So he's giving all these qualities of a sattvic person. So if we want to really reach our goal, we got to cultivate the sattvic qualities and start getting rid of the tamasic and the rajasic. That's what he's telling us. And the rest of the qualities which he talked about, whether it was a yam in the niyam or faith or yearning or devotion, those are all qualifications of a fit student. You are not even a student if you don't have the qualities. If you don't have a control over your senses, you're not fit yet. Right in the beginning of the scripture, he talked about it. The qualities leading to the supreme good are these qualities. Absence of pride. And we need to add the tempo to our spiritual practices, such as yam and niyam. And then sixfold wealth. If you remember that, sham, dam, uprati, titiksha, shraddha, samadhan. That's what we need to not just memorize, bring those qualities in our personality. See, this devotion part, he mentioned devotion. The other day I had there was a question in the comment, one of the lectures comments, there was question that Shankaracharya ji, when did he talk about devotion part? He talks about devotion very clearly. Right here he's saying devotion. When he says Shraddha, that is a devotion. So with sufficient devotion to the ideal are the indications of mixed Sattva Guna. When you have a yearning to love God, when you have a yearning to help somebody, that means Sattvikta is mixing in your personality. So Rajsikta and Tamsikta, we got to lower it. And Sattvikta, we got to make sure that it's a predominant Sattvikta in our personality. Let's look at one more, because I think then we'll end with this Sattvic quality. And then we'll just move on with the next one, which is about the Atma. Vishuddha Sattvasya Gunaha Prasadaha Swa Atmanabhuti Parmaha Prashantihi Triptihi Praharshaha Paramatmanishtaha Yeya Sada Nand Rasam Samrichati. Vishuddha Sattvasya, the pure Sattva. See, right now we do have Sattvikta in us, but are we pure Sattvik all the time or not? So over here he's talking about pure Sattvic. Gunaha, characteristics. Prasadaha, cheerfulness. That's like a tranquility of the mind. That kind of a cheerfulness. Swa Atam Anubhuti, the experience of one's own self. Or another name for it is self-realization, knowing yourself, realizing your own self. Paramaha, supreme. Prashantihi, peace. So supreme peace. Triptihi, contentment. Praharshaha, bliss. Paramatmanishtaha, devotion to the supreme self. Yeya means by which Sadanand Rasam, the everlasting essence of bliss. See, Ras means the essence, the nectar. Sadanand, everlasting. Samrichati comes to enjoy. So it's like a bringing something. So the characteristics of pure sattva are cheerfulness, the experience of one's own self, supreme peace, contentment, bliss, and constant devotion to the supreme self, by which the aspirant comes to enjoy everlasting bliss. Because when the last traces of dirt, which is rajas and tamas, are removed, the personality becomes completely pure. That is what he's talking about. So it's an uncontaminated sattva. First, it was a mixed sattva. Now it's uncontaminated sattva. So when such a state is attained, sure, the sadhak, the aspirant, realizes the supreme self and gains everlasting bliss. Bliss. Why it's everlasting? Because having gained this state, no sorrow can ever affect this person, this personality. Because once you have seen it, the reality, you know this is all temporary. And temporary, it will change. Right now, we want to just hold on to the temporary because we think we just get some kind of a pleasure from here and we want to hold on to it. We have not realized the real joy and the bliss is already inside us. We are nothing but bliss. So when a person has gained this state, no sorrow can ever affect a person. Okay? And some of the traits of this transcendental state of experience are indicated in this verse. This choice of expression is from there when he talks about param prashantihi, triptihi, praharsha, paramatmanishtha, all of that. Let's look at these words. Swa atam anubhuti, experience of one's own self. See, normally what happened? We experience that we are the body. And that's where all the misapprehensions and the cause of the non-apprehensions, they arise. But all of that is absent in Swa Atma. In the Atma, there's none of that. So the self is apprehended when the intellect becomes immaculately pure. Swa Atam Anubhuti. You really experience yourself. Then Param Shanti, supreme peace. That's a perfect peace. There's no Rajsikta, no agitation. There could be causes of agitation, but you do not get agitated. It's not that causes have removed, but you don't get agitated. That is a spiritual state of divine experience. And contentment, triptihi, because of the absence of all desires, the seeker feels a sense of supreme contentment. Because presence of desire, I'm talking about the worldly desire, presence of desire is the indication of a sense of incompleteness. Okay, by having this, by going there, by doing this, I will feel complete. That is a sense of incompleteness. So presence of desire is the indication of a sense of incompleteness. So state of desirelessness is contentment. Okay. Praharshaha, bliss. This is not a bliss of an ignorant person. It's a dynamic bliss of realization. Because this bliss is springing from a source which has been transcended by our known concepts of joy. Normally we think we're going to get bliss or we're going to get joy from these worldly things. But what happens, we are wishing for the joy, but what do? We feel the oozing of the sorrow. Sometimes we don't get what we really thought we'll get from this world, or we get bored by it, or it gets taken away from us. But this praharsha is the bliss at a different level. And paramatmanishtaha is a devotion to the Supreme Self. Entirely engaged in seeking this ultimate joy, not the joy from the worldly things. Because equipments are transcended. Objective and the subjective world is not there. Vasanas have been conquered. That's why there's no slipping back into the state of the body, mind, and equipment. So by making the intellect completely pure, the aspirant enjoys the essence of everlasting bliss. Okay, so this is what he's talking about over here. And we'll see that next week, he'll talk about the causal body, because he talked about the subtle body, the gross body also. In a couple of verses, he'll explain the causal body also. Then he'll talk about the Atma. Just remember in these verses exactly what he's trying to define for us. So that's why it's very important to do a little bit of homework of your own also. Then it will make more sense, these verses, because he has really opened it up quite a bit for us. Okay, so let's end the class here. Let me do the Shanti mantra and then we'll have some discussion. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, any question, comment, or anything you did not understand, or something I did not explain properly? So your chance to talk.
Namaste, Hershji.
Namaste, Sujata.
I just had a question about the Shaktis of Maya. The gunas are the three subdivisions of the energies of Maya. Am I correct? And then we talked about the veiling power, the projecting power, which is the third power. I was just, and does he mention it here?
Normally what happens, these are the three powers like a Mal, Vikshep, and Avarn.
Mal. So what does Mal imply basically?
Mal implies to the physical.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Mal, defects in the body.
Okay.
Mal. Okay.
But I mean, does the body itself, according to him, doesn't it count as Mal? I mean, he really thinks.
Yeah, but you don't, it came because of the Mal, but you don't identify with the Mal.
No. Okay.
Right? So self-realized person has a body, but identification is not with the body or the mind or the intellect. Identification is with that Shuddha Savrupa. Okay?
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
See, it's like even this outer wealth. Sometimes we think the money. No, I don't want it. No, identification with the money, identification with the power is a flaw. Lord Krishna, he lived in Maya, right? So having is not a problem. Wrong identification is a problem. Okay, so that's what we have to work on.
So the mal is a flaw in the body, or is it a flaw in our identification?
It's see, when we identify with the physical part, that's a mal.
Okay. All right. So flaw in the identification then.
It's flaw in the identification. Okay, so that's why he did not mention it over here, because he's talking about more subtler realm. That's why. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks.
Arji,
Yes, Urmil.
I was having a problem with, though I do understand, but technically in verse 113, decentralization, projection, or scatterbrain, in my previous notes, what exactly would be decentralization?
Decentralization, because I did not mention this in my translation. Can you tell me exactly how he is wording it? Where
It is in the Vivekchudamani translation, which says,
it's in the
in
translation.
tamas lies dormant the power that is manifested in rajas dash decentralization. But I think what it really means is from last 2009 notes, it says where you don't think right, you imagine things and you do accordingly in the rajas state of affairs, rather than logically thinking. So, but still the word decentralization bothered me because it doesn't seem to
no,
do anything
cross
to
it
me.
out. See, the way I have written over here, I don't have any word like that, because there's no Sanskrit term which says decentralization. So it's just a translation of that author. So if you want to note it down, because I try to look at the exact meaning of the Sanskrit words, and that's how my translations are. The veiling power is the power of tamas. So veiling power is like a covers it, it doesn't let you see, which makes things appear to be other than what they actually are. Right? Because if there's a varna on it, on something, you really don't see exactly what it is. It causes a person's repeated transmigration and initiates the action of the projecting power. That's all it says. There's no decentralization.
Harshji, in the same 113, he does write that even of decentralization, but in the, in the within
brackets.
He writes projection.
Projection. So just
projection,
just remember projection, because projection word is more clear than a decentralization.
What is projection here? What does projection?
You are projecting something which it's not. Your mind is projecting. Projecting is always, remember the example of a rope and a snake. It's a rope, but you're projecting, your mind is projecting as a snake.
Imagining. That's what I thought.
But something which is not.
That's why this decentralization word did not make
that's
sense here,
word.
and I wanted to be sure.
Exactly. No, I see that sometimes these translations, they can really throw you off. Just cross that out, I would say.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I also noted down pillar without any understanding. A pillar without any understanding. A pillar is an object. It doesn't have any brain or any attribute. It's just a piece of concrete. So what is a pillar without any understanding?
That means you really act like a pillar. Even though you have the intellect, but you're not using it. See, sometimes don't we tell somebody that maybe jokingly, or we just say that, hey, you are a gada.
A dead piece of log or wood.
Yeah, so it is even further than that you are not using your intellect. You have it, but you're not using it. You're acting like a log. If somebody keeps on sleeping during the daytime also, for like a sun is up and the person is sleeping, what do we say? You're sleeping like a log, right? You should be
Okay.
up meditating. You're supposed to be sleeping. You're supposed to be up even before the sun gets up, but you're sleeping like a log. So in that sense, he's saying, okay.
Okay. In 117, there's a summary of Rajas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, light, scattering, and darkness. Scattering here again is like projection,
Projecting,
meaning
like a
scattered
scattering.
brain.
Mind is, yeah, mind, you don't have a control. See, like a clear beam will let you see what's there. When it's scattered, then there is no clarity. Okay? So that's what it is. Rajas is scattered, tamas is darkened, and sattva is clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry,
No, that's perfectly fine. That's good. These questions, I'm sure other people have it too. So that's how we get further clarification. Yes. Anybody else? Manju,
Hershey, namaste. Yeah, no, I was listening to you. Sorry. Can I speak?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I was listening to your previous last week's class. And yeah, in that you mentioned very beautifully, like this, God is like, or Supreme Self is just like sun, just one clear beam.
Yeah.
And when the clouds cover it, which is avarn, then after that we see multiple rays all over. We
Yeah.
can't see the one single beam, and
Right.
that's the scattered. And so everything is one, but because of the covering of the intellect and doubts, everything gets projected as
Yeah.
multiple different.
Yeah.
So for I just those two, this particular example really, I think, made an impact. I mean, I really get that. Avarn and Vikshape, the
Yeah.
projection.
Yeah. Yeah.
On a screen, you know, the
See,
projector was.
Yeah. Our mind should
one.
be like a
Yeah.
clear glass, not
Yeah.
like a lens. If it's
Right.
like a lens,
It will project.
something then it will definitely project.
It can be concave or convex.
Yes.
It will always change the reality.
It will change because of the curvature of it.
It will make
These
bigger
are-
or smaller.
So this
Everything, the
sadhana which we
reality.
do, all these
Yeah.
sadhanas which these rishis talk about, that is to making our mind
Yeah.
clean
That's
and making it pure. Okay, that is the
yes.
sadhana. We have to always keep an eye on our mind.
Like a clean glass, clean and clear, and
Clean
clear,
and
so no
clear,
color.
right. Yeah, clean, clear, calm, definitely. I mean, that's our job now.
Glass,
That's why we
not.
study all this.
And
right?
we say, look through the lens of. We use the word.
Yeah.
We shouldn't use that word.
Mirror of. It should be mirror.
Mirror.
Of the mirror
Yes.
of the mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lens.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, good. I'm glad that you guys are paying attention, and I'm sure watching, implementing all this also. So really good. Proud of you.
Yeah, lens will always change, distort.
Yeah, it will distort.
The truth.
Yeah, and that's what happens. Don't we distort? We have been doing it, distorting the
all
truth.
the time. According to our mind.
Yes, our
Distorted.
mind. Yes.
According to your own mind. The
Yes.
truth will be distorted by us.
Yes.
According
Yes.
to our mind. Whatever we believe in.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when ego comes in the picture,
right,
and clashes.
Yeah.
So we got to just be aware of that. Okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Love your
Anybody else has a question, comment? Just admit. No? If you have a question or a comment, just unmute yourself.
If nobody
You are
else has
looking beautiful.
if nobody has a question, I have one more,
Sure.
and that is in 119, experience of oneself. Self is apprehended when pure Sattvikta, purest Sattvikta is there.
Yeah.
The experience of oneself, you made this a very important point, but I didn't catch it.
See, experience is a swa atma anubhuti. See, the rajas, what does rajas do? It causes misapprehension, and tamas causes non-apprehension. And when they're totally absent, there's no rajas and there's no tamas, or maybe even if there is, for that moment there is none. During meditation, there shouldn't be any of rajas and tamas. What do you see? You apprehend only yourself. Swa atam anubhuti. Okay? It's just like you are going within yourself and you know who you are. You have experienced yourself. It's not only theoretical learning about yourself. It's an experience of yourself. Swa atam anubhuti. Then once you have this anubhuti, this experience, there can never be any doubt about it then. That's how some of the great leaders, spiritual leaders, they left their highly paying jobs, the topmost positions, or any kind of a name and fame. They just had that anubhuti and they said, there's nothing greater than this. We see that in the even today's society, there are people like that. Anubhuti. So they are not after any position, they are not after any money, they are not after how many people listen to them or how many books they write, nothing. They're just content. And that's where the contentment, tripti and the param shanti and the praharsha, whatever he's talking about, that all stemmed from there. The self-realization, self-experience, okay? So that's why I just, because these words are very key words in this verse.
Yeah.
And they all come
That's why
out
it's
of,
important to really understand each word, and sometimes we miss
Yeah.
we can't
Yeah.
catch up with every word.
Yeah. So swa atmanubhuti, parma parshanti, tripti, praharshaha, and paramatmanishtaha. These are the key terms, and they are because of the extreme sattvikta. Okay. So, see, Bhagavad Gita explained this also, but I think when we, this Vivekchudamani and Bhagavad Gita, they really complement each other. Just like Bhagavad Gita and Yog Darshan, they complement each other.
And now we have Adbhut.
Avadhut Gita
Even
also, that is like a person who has already reached here.
I don't know where we have reached.
Because Dattatreya is not talking about any Tamsikta or Rajsikta. He's talking about only the Atma right now. That is another level. But we'll see on Tuesday when we start doing the Narad Bhakti Sutra. Then we'll see that, hey, how can we reach here? With the help of devotion, right? We are so thankful to all these great writers, actually. They have done a great favor to us. They knew that we need this. We need the written form of this knowledge. So anyway, who wants to sing today? I think